everyone. Welcome to the Reinventing You 7-Day Challenge. I'm your host, Alyssa Sulli, and I am elated to have my dear friend, Jeremy Radu, come and speak to us today. Jeremy previously weighed over 195 kilograms, that's 430 pounds, and lost 80 kilograms, that's 176 pounds. But his greatest passion is surprisingly not helping people with weight loss, but instead helping them build strong and powerful minds. In his Reinventing You journey, the real work began after the weight was gone, and he had to tackle the mind behind the new man he was becoming. He's a coach that lives by and teaches that you have two choices in life: make excuses or make progress. This podcaster, speaker, health and mindset coach empowers his audience and clients with understanding how critical it is to adopt a powerful mindset to truly become a magnet to success. Anyone can do it. They simply have to be willing to make the choice and put in the work. Jeremy is a firm believer that if you have 6 hours to cut down a tree, spend 4 hours of them sharpening an axe. The most powerful tool you have is your mind. Welcome, Jeremy. I'm excited for you to be here.
How you going, Alyssa? I'm excited to be here too. Hey, that was good. That was a very good summarize. I like that.
Oh, thank you. I'm just talking about you. You're my friend. I know you.
Well, it goes to show you're a good listener. Every time we have those chats, we go for half an hour, sending messages back and forth. So, yeah, awesome. I appreciate that.
Well,
how's everything going for you today?
It's awesome. I'm so excited that we're here to share, the story. This Reinventing You journey, this 7-day challenge is about people really hearing those individuals in life, those coaches, those leaders that used to have the struggle of a specific area of their life that they reinvented, how they overcame it, and the tools and the strategies that they used, and that they now teach their clients. And I'd love for you to share a story that would really resonate with the audience about you and how you reinvented yourself and became who you are today.
Yeah, I think, I love what you're doing with the 7-day challenge. And I think that it's really important because I think it's just going to help people sort of, set themselves up and get ready. And I think, one thing to take in mind is everyone's got a different story, just like every speaker does, every listener does. And it's just finding what resonates with you, I think, from the story, but mine was a little funny because most people would have thought that the direction I took it was, so different in the sense of just health. But I lost, as you said in the intro, I lost all this weight, and I thought I'd find myself, and I didn't. I actually probably was more lost because I'm like, so when I was extremely overweight, I thought what I wanted was, to lose weight and they'll be where I want to be. And once I, lost the weight, I realized I'm like, well, okay, surely there has to be something else because I'm not satisfied. In fact, I was obviously very happy the fact that I lost the weight, but I felt like, man, I was lost inside, like what's happening up here? And I think I just started to realize, that there's so much more to play. And I ended up getting involved with a multi-level marketing company. And it was a friend of mine, he introduced me to it. And I ended up going every Sunday. So I'd go once a week where we would actually start to have like a session on business. He would also start talking about health. And the man that was there, he was a bit of a guru. He was my guru at the time for about 2 years. I wasn't heavily involved in the actual business itself, but I used to love going there because I'm like, oh, man, like knowledge bombs. He was just dropping knowledge bombs to me that I never heard of, right?
Yeah.
And I think what happened through that experience was the fact that I was being exposed to that information so often and, on a weekly basis, it just started to expand my mind. Because I was so closed off. I used to be this person that was the most negative person on the planet. Like, I couldn't tell you how negative I was. I'd go to a holiday where we'd be on like, floor 40, super high up, amazing view. And the first thing when I do when I go inside is have something to complain about, right? And so I took all of these and I started to actually, I flipped it around completely. You would not recognize that person from today. And that was really just because I started to actually realize all this. And I said, well, shit, Jeremy, you don't know a heck of a lot. You actually got to start learning. I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm not the smartest cookie in the room. So, yeah, I basically, this sort of introduced me into my section where I just started realizing that every day, either I grow or I'm just falling backwards. And it all started with something as simple as every day I started making the choice. I said, well, you know what? Every day I drive to work. This is where it all started. Every day I drive to work, I'm just going to listen to a podcast on something mindset rather than just listening to the radio. And it all started with Andy Frisella, MF CEO podcast. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but
just from you, but otherwise no.
Yeah. The man drills you. He's literally like, he just says it straight. There's no, pretty around. He's like telling you straight up, and I'm like, oh shit. But and I think, yeah, ever since that day, or that time, I've just started realizing that every day I have to start filling my mind with information, and reshaping my mind to be where I want to be and not just expect it.
Yeah. Wow, what a beautiful journey. And just the reality of, you have this goal, this vision, I'm going to lose this weight and then I'll be happy and then I'll be fulfilled and then I'll reach all my goals in life and dreams. And then you hit that goal and it wasn't the answer.
Yeah.
And the understanding that, the awareness that you had of, oh my gosh, it's my mind, my thought process, how I need to evolve and grow. And the fact that you, one, recognized it, two, began to recognize there is somebody in my life who may not be in alignment with everything that I believe, but enough so that he can teach me something I don't know. And so I can show up as a student in life, and I can continue to grow and develop myself to shift this mindset that it's affecting my ability to be who I want to be. What an amazing message and journey. And so what were you doing? Were you creating a consistent practice and routine to really begin to reshape your mind, or what did that process look like for you?
Yeah, so it started off like, like I said, I was just going every sort of week. And for the first maybe 6 months, it was just me just going there, listening and listening. And it really just sort of just getting into the subconscious mind, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't do any action. Like, there was zero action from my behalf. I was just almost absorbing. And after that, I think I was just starting to realize that, wait a second, I have the opportunity, I have the power. So I started taking ownership. And that's when I think I started to actually realize, okay, what are my habits like? And something really powerful. It all stems from this multi-level marketing, because I went to this event. I ended up having to go to Malaysia, right? It was a big seminar, and I said, yeah, why not? I'm going. One of the speakers, this is one thing I'll remember for the rest of my life. I love this, and I've never heard it before. It's a riddle. It goes like this. I can destroy you from the inside out, or I can lay success at your feet effortlessly. My name is habit.
Wow.
And when I heard that, I was just sitting there, and I remember just sitting in the chair thinking, shit, that's powerful, right?
Yeah. Like,
it should be so obvious, but I was just like, okay. So everything I do every single day for, a month, a year, is going to accumulate and create an outcome. Yeah. So that's when I started to create those little habits where I said, okay, well, I had this habit where, or a routine, I should say, every day I have to listen to one podcast, something on mindset. And I haven't broken that since. It's just something, it's not because I don't have to force myself. It's just like, man, what am I going to learn today? Yeah. So now I'm seeking it. Like, what's on the plate today for me to learn? If I moved today and I didn't learn something new yesterday, something's wrong. Yeah. The next things I started looking at was, what's my mind talk like? And that was a big thing, because I was like many people, and I'm sure you've experienced that, we all have. I used to talk so badly about myself, and call myself an idiot and a moron and much, much, much worse things, being that I was depressed back then. And so I never realized how much of a problem that was. And self-confidence was at an all-time low. Like,
even after you lost your weight?
Yeah, but didn't have any more confidence. I thought I did, maybe in a physical aspect, but as a person, no, because I didn't have any qualities to be confident about. Maybe I had a body too, but the qualities just weren't there. So I started realizing, I'm like, okay, well, what are the qualities that I aspire to have? And so I remember going through this list, and I said, well, like, I can't go through telling myself I hate myself every day. I'm like, you just can't do that. Nothing productive is going to come from that. So I ended up making a list of all the things that I like about myself. And it could be anything, maybe the way I talk, maybe I had a big heart, and it wasn't much at the time. At the time, I could only write, a handful of things.
Yeah.
But I would just look at that list every day, and I would start reminding myself. And I put a little bit of a calendar, a schedule, to remind me to read that aloud, every week or so. So I started doing all these little sort of things, and I was just thinking, okay, well, where am I lacking in my life? So I knew that my inner chatter was massive. I was talking rubbish to myself. And I was starting to look at what are my excuses that I'm coming up with. What are my reasons? I wasn't taking ownership for who I was. And that's why I wasn't happy. I was always playing the blame game. So, I think the biggest in terms of routine was, okay, I'm going to purposely, sit down today. I'm going to read 10 minutes of a book, 15 minutes of a book. I'm going to, those were my staples, and just listen to a podcast. From there, everything else domino affected into my day. I always start my morning by listening to a 15, 30-minute podcast.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So it's, you created this new habit and routine. You wanted to develop your mindset. Initially, it was just listening, but then that part of you realized, I've got to be taking action in my life. Only listening and absorbing information only goes so far. Knowledge is only powerful when you begin to apply it, and you recognize that. And then you identified that your talk track was just so negative. And even though you had achieved this goal of losing the weight, you weren't feeling any better about yourself. You lacked that confidence, and you identified, okay, this is where I do feel good about myself. And though that list was small, it was enough for you to connect with every day and make that a part of your life, to recognize. And then you made a list, and you identified who you aspire to be. And I think that's probably one of the most valuable things that I loved hearing you say, because when we are stuck in this rut of wanting to reinvent ourselves in life, and we may not be able to recognize the qualities that we have and that others may see in us, but when we can look at people to look up to and to be aspiring, it gives us a platform to push towards. It gives us a direction of something that we can work towards and achieve, and create that list of who I want to be and begin to take action. And I love that you spoke of ownership, of not making excuses. Like, we can play the blame game all our lives, but that never allows us to reinvent ourselves. We've got to take ownership for where we are at and how we want to evolve and grow. I would love for you to tell me how you notice your talk track, because I know sometimes that can be really hard to even recognize that we're speaking negatively about ourselves on a consistent basis.
Yeah, so it's very, very true. I think it's a big one, and we don't realize it. We don't think about it, right? It's autopilot. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is it's almost like you've got someone on your shoulder and this button gets pressed, and automatically it just goes. You don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to recognize. I think I just, it became a normal thing for me. And I remember when talking to sort of friends or other people that I knew of, and they only found out afterwards. I told them that I used to be severely depressed, and I'd speak to them and say, I used to say all this and that to myself and hate myself. And they looked at me like almost in shock. They're like, wow, I didn't know that, Jeremy. And I was just thinking, I'm like, isn't that normal? At the time, I thought that was such a normal thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I probably didn't even break out of it. And I think that's when I started to realize, I'm like, okay, this isn't normal. I'm like, maybe this isn't what everyone does. You know what I mean? Like to the degree that I did anyway,
Yeah.
And that's when I think I started to really listen and say, well, okay, I'm just paying attention to my mind more and like noticing. I think being aware is the word, being conscious. And it really all started from there. I just started listening to my mind, and then I'm like, wow, okay, pay more attention up here. What's going on in here? Because this is just replaying everything. You know what I mean? It's all the information that I've already had in the past, and it's just on replay. So I need to find out what's going on in here so that I can reset that record tape.
Yeah. That's amazing. And it probably really was beneficial, that habit of incorporating these motivational mindset podcasts and things that you're listening to, because you're constantly fueling your brain with new ideas versus the old, patterns, whether that be, music and things like that. Were you eliminating or changing anything in that arena, or did you just start listening to stuff?
For sure. So I should have probably added before. I put the list of things that I wanted to do. For example, I was talking about my good qualities, right? I also made a list of things I didn't like, because those were things I needed to change.
Sure.
So I couldn't just expect to say I love myself and not change what I didn't love about myself.
Yeah.
Right. So and that's a big thing, by the way, words of affirmation nowadays. A lot of people use it in the wrong way because it's, they're just hoping to, cover up something. But I recognize, I'm like, well, all right, what am I doing that is actually not serving me? And a lot of those things were, I was listening to negative music. And when I say negative, at a subconscious level, so listening to heavy rap music back in the days, or just even radio music that you don't listen to, where sometimes if you listen to the words, it's a bit like, oh, I don't know if I want that in my mind. They're talking about hate and suicide and all these sorts of disgusting sort of things in the sense of to absorb. And so I cut out any music, anything that came into my ears. News. I don't watch news anymore. And the reason is that what do I have to watch? I just listen to negative energy. So if and I started noticing everywhere in my life, I'm like, well, where, what is coming into my mind that is not benefiting me? And if it's not benefiting me, then I have to question it. Why is it there?
Yeah.
And that's when I started to play the remove game. Yeah.
Was that hard? Was there like a tug of war kind of in your head of like, okay, some days I'm doing good, some days I'm doing bad, or did it feel pretty fluid and consistent because you're really connected with who you want to become? Like, what did that look like for you?
Oh, I was very lost. I was still lost for quite some time. Long time. I just knew, okay, well, there's a process, and you can't play these games, where you just go by what hurts me and expect a good outcome. So I was very lost, but I knew that I had to remove that. And so every day was still a funk. I remember what I did was, in the beginning, I used to listen a lot to people like Les Brown. Not sure if you've heard of him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
My man.
I love him. He's awesome.
Oh, he's the best. So I remember I used to just play a lot of that. I used to play people like him that just build you up. And so I'd listen to them say, you just have to love yourself and all these sorts of things. And I never used to get that because I'm like, how? So I think it was just over time of consistency and doing this over and over and over. I remember one day I just said, someone asked me about the topic and I was able to actually say I love myself. And I was like, huh. I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
That's something.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So I think it was just every day sticking at it. Like it definitely was a tug of war. one day I still said, oh my God, I'm such a, and call myself all these names and whatnot. And then, the next day is like, oh yeah, I'm all right. I'm okay. And I think that's just the battle of life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate, your honesty with this because, sometimes people speak to, oh, I just thought happy thoughts and I was just good and I just went through it. And I'm not sure I really subscribe to that. And the reason I don't subscribe to that is because, when I was younger, I struggled with compulsive eating, exercise, bulimia, and to heal from that process, it was not an overnight fix. I didn't even know what emotion was. I didn't know, I would binge and then I would try not to binge. Like it was a continuous effort, that tug of war, the back and forth, the consistency that you spoke of, which is so essential. Like you've got to create the new habits. You've got to create some consistency. There's going to be an ebb and flow to it. And I just love the truthfulness that you presented there because I absolutely agree with you. I believe that it takes a lot of time and effort. And the Reinventing You process, some people might dive in and think, 7 days, I'll figure it out. No, this is a platform to begin to this process. It's the introductory to stepping up and knowing that you're not alone in your story and your journey. Yeah. And that's going to take time and effort. And leaders like you, and I love your style of teaching. I do prefer the more, just throw it at me. Like, some people like the gentle, different approach, but I loved and I know that your style, and I know, we met in a platform in the coaching world with a pretty tough, aggressive teacher, Curly Ray. And so, I love your style and your message and the clarity you bring and the honesty that you bring to your story. Is there any piece that we didn't talk about in the story that really was kind of the struggle or a reality that came to you, or techniques that you still do, or that you haven't mentioned that, as somebody maybe like me, if I'm struggling with self-acceptance and my mindset, that I might be able to implement?
I think, I sort of put it as a broad context as to sort of listening to, chatter and all these sorts of things. I think a big one is really just listening to excuses, and it's still something that I think I constantly battle. And I always, when I say I always will, my mind is designed to find excuses, and so I have to listen. I really, really have to pay attention to where my excuses are. So when something comes up and I have a reason why not to do it, I obviously now understand that my brain is trying to save energy. And so it's telling me there's a good reason, quote, a good reason to not do it.
Yeah.
But I think in the beginning, an excuse comes down usually as a reason for blame when you can't do something. So I think if you ever catch yourself out, for the people listening, if you ever catch yourself out saying you can't do something, I think it's really important to actually pay attention, to why you can't do it. Are you blaming someone else? Or maybe are you saying you cannot because an ability you have? I would much prefer that. Because if you say it's someone else or a fault of something else, you're giving your keys, as we spoke about taking ownership, you're giving your keys to someone else and you're no longer in control of that situation. Yeah. So I think that something massive is anytime you find there is something you can't do, find out why. And if in your mind you believe that it does come from somewhere else, I think that it's important to actually step back and think, well, what can I do differently to change this outcome? And challenge yourself, because I think that's such a big thing that I always used to do. I always used to blame my genetics. I always used to blame so many things as to why I was the way I was, unhappy. And I don't think until I realized, it's should be such a normal thing, but until I really realized that, hey, everything I do leads to an outcome. And so if I'm not careful with what I do every single day, then I will have an outcome I'm not happy with.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just really understanding that yes, my genetics are not good. And yes, I can, swell up much quicker than the average person eating the exact same meal. But that does not mean that I can just stop. That just means I have to put in harder work and I have to find a different way around it. Yeah. So a big thing is, I think, obstacles, So that's why we tend to, take that route of giving responsibility, because we don't like having to go around obstacles. We find an obstacle and we stop. So I find that's very powerful to, hey, is there a problem in front of me? And figure out, well, okay, what can I do to get around it? Yeah. What can I do to get over it?
Yeah, I really love that. The excuse piece, the deflecting with blame, which is just so much easier because then I don't have to take ownership and look within myself and the reality of obstacles. And I just love how you spoke to, your genetics and like, okay, this is who I am. And we all resist something in life because there's a degree we have no control over. But can we then shift our mindset? This is where, what you're teaching, the shifting your mindset and perceiving the situation differently. Because if you want to stay in the old mindset, that's great. You can put blame, you can stay right here and just do your same old thing and have the same outcome with no different result. Or you can change your perspective, you can change your mindset, you can fuel yourself with a new action plan, new habits that are going to get you the outcome that you want. And maybe you have to work harder than the next guy because maybe that's not an arena that you're naturally skilled, or that genetically you aren't as gifted, so to speak, or whatever that language is. But take ownership and do the best you can with what you have and take control of your life. I absolutely love that. What a great
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought about a lot recently is that I believe that most people in life have one area they really excel. And like there's that piece of them that they just show up habitually, presently, they just get it done. They've kind of mastered like a degree in the area of their life. And I feel like when I go to the gym, like there's another level of me that shows up that I feel like I don't deliver the rest of my life in the other areas of my life. Like I'll grind, I'll sweat, I'll fall, I'll bruise, I'll push that extra rep, I'll whatever. I'll go when it's cold, I'll go when it's hot. I don't miss a day. Like that's my thing, right? But if I can model that in other areas of my life, it may not be as easy because that's very passion driven for me, fitness, right? But if I can find a way to model those same habits, put my mindset and shift my mind the way you teach to show up in these scenarios with that same mindset, I can transform my life in that specific area. If it's finance, if it's relationship, it's whatever it may be. So yeah, what a great message, Jeremy. I love it.
I think it's important. Something we keep talking about a lot, isn't it? That finding that energy from one spot, and you're like, why can't I, sort of, cross that bridge to everything else? And I think you hit the nail on the head. It's just passion. Yeah. But again, I do believe passion can be created. It's just consistency of learning about whatever it is you're passionate about. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremy. This was amazing. I love your message and your story. And I just want to speak to the perseverance and the determination. And I know that you said that, and just in our friendship, I know that the journey from the weight loss, and you really discovered that after the weight loss, it was your mind that you have to shift. But I know that it was a lot of work to lose that much weight. You really you're just a driven, hungry man. You want more for your life. And it hasn't always processed that way, and it hasn't always shown up. But I believe that everybody has that within them. And I think that you're a perfect example to that, and such a great teacher and leader. And when you speak in your podcast and you provide your services as a coach, both in fitness and in mindset, like the value you can bring, because you have not only lived it, but now you teach it. You don't just, you're not just reading a book and teaching it. You actually had to go through it. And I just know the determination and the focus it has to take. And I appreciate everything that you bring to the table. Thank you so much for your story and your strategies and tools that we can all take with us. Is there some places that people can find you out there for your services?
At the moment, I've sort of been cutting back on, doing one-on-ones, but, if people want to find me, absolutely DM me, question me, ask me anything you want. You can find me on Instagram, and I've just got it as my name, jeremy.emmanuel. And I've got my website, which is coming up in the next 2 months or so. I'm looking at launching at the start of the year, which is 5 Level Fitness. It's very, health orientated, but what I do is I have a big section on mindset. I think that, when I made the website, it's, mindset, nutrition, health, recovery, and training. But I believe that the mindset is the puzzle the piece of the puzzle that connects everything.
Yeah.
So if you want to find me up there, that's a good place to go as well.
Awesome. I love it. And I will say, I have seen some intros to your stuff. It's going to be amazing. And I know it's taken a lot of time. This website is going to be very robust. It's not like okay, here we go. There's my about page and here's my contact information.
Yeah.
It is truly a platform of knowledge that you are creating, which is why the investment in time is taking you through to the next year. So I'm so excited to see that launch. I cannot wait. So you'll have to send me that as soon as
Appreciate
it's
that. I forgot. We just started the podcast recently. It's called
right.
From Sofa to Success. Yeah.
Say that again. What is it again?
From Sofa to Success. Yeah.
From
Yeah.
Sofa
Awesome.
to Success. Oh, I love it.
Awesome.
That's right. That is so fun. Great energy, great knowledge about the mindset perspective. I mean, it's so awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate it. It's always good talking to you.
Great to talk to you too. You have a good day.
You too. See you later. Bye.